Hello. Welcome to the Lansing Marketing Hackers. We are a group of marketers who like to share ideas to improve our game. And we've been doing this for a few years now, and this is our last session of the year 2021. And we were just talking about how can it be almost 2022 already? It seems like we lost a year somewhere in there. But anyway, appreciate you joining today. My name is Chad Muntz. I am the digital sales manager for WLNS here in Lansing. And we are a group of folks, and I'd like to just pass it on to Paul and Julie. There are other co-coordinators who work on this together to introduce themselves and introduce our sponsor. So Paul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Schmidt with Introduce Multimedia. I'm the creative video strategist and owner. And and so what we do is we produce storytelling using video for nonprofit organizations and socially responsible small businesses. And it is us that is handling the live stream here. And we're really, really, really geeked. I don't know if that's even a term anymore for this panel that's coming. It's really exciting to hear from some folks in the Lansing area doing some extraordinary things. So we welcome you here and look forward to what's going to be said. Over to you, Julie.
Hey, Paul, thanks. So, and Paul and his team at Introduce celebrating 20 years. I think we need to pause and congratulate Paul and his team. 20 years of Introduce. They're having a big party celebration next week. So check it out on their website. Gee, I might do some of the marketing with Paul and his team. Look at that. Plug for you. But he was just saying first 50 people who come get some popcorn from Cravings. So, I mean, not that you need an incentive to celebrate Introduce and the team, but we'll take popcorn. So I'm Julie Holton. I'm the owner and principal strategist at M Connections Marketing Agency. Also one of your host companies for Lansing Marketing Hackers, and really excited today for the panel discussion that we have. Also want to take a moment to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Symposia Labs, based in Grand Rapids, but doing exceptional work across the entire state. If you've tuned in for our live streams throughout the year, then you've met Tim or Seth or any number of the people from their incredible team. They are a full service marketing agency. We are so happy to have them as partners for Lansing Marketing Hackers. They typically provide us with lunch, although, I hope you enjoy your bag lunch today. We had hoped to be in person today, but obviously COVID has other plans, and we just continue to roll with the punches, which is exactly what today's live stream is all about. Quick shout out. Hi, Stephanie. She says, congratulations to Paul and the team at Introduce. Glad you're tuning in. Go ahead and comment. We'll be able to see your comments throughout our panel discussion today. So if you have questions, let us know. Also drop us a line. Let us know the business that you're kind of representing today or what your marketing efforts are, and feel free to join in on the conversation. So I'll keep this chat box open too. So today's topic is COVID Made Me Do It, which I think Chad or Paul, I think Chad came up with that name, and I just love it because take it for what it is. COVID made us make a lot of changes. I don't know about you guys. How many of you are tired of the word pivot? Right? By the time the pandemic is over, it might just be one of those words that we just take out of the dictionary and just never use again. But this certainly has been a year of pivots, 2 years of pivots, really, because for some of us, it still feels like 2020. But it has not all been moans and groans. Some of the pivots, some of these changes that we've seen businesses make have actually been really incredible, both for the business itself as well as the marketing that they've been doing. So it seems, guys, we put our heads together and invited a few panelists to join us today because some of the things that we've seen is this really sharpened focus on clients and customers and the customer experience, our community experience, and even how to lift up other businesses. So Chad, Paul, and I put our heads together. We invited some panelists to join us today. And I'm kind of fangirling over here because some of them I'm just really excited to talk to about the decisions that went into some of the marketing moves they made, and to give all of us some ideas as we actually do head into 2022. So we're going to talk success stories, we're going to talk mistakes, and everything in between. So get your questions ready, and let's welcome our panelists. All right, so we have Chad Gordon is the CEO of Cravings Gourmet Popcorn. Jake is the marketing communications coordinator at Foster Swift Law Firm, and Travis is the co-owner of Saddleback Barbecue. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think first we need to set the scene a little bit for our audience. One of the things that Paul and Chad and I had talked about was let's find people from different types of industries, different types of businesses, because we've all been impacted by the pandemic, but obviously in very different ways. So let's first kind of set the scene for our audience here and talk about maybe one thing that has impacted you the most in the last, I'm going to just say 2 years for the sake of being simple on time. So Chad, let's start with you. What has been kind of the main impact of the pandemic for you that you've seen really in the last couple of years?
It's probably the slowing down of the amount of customers that would walk through the door. I mean, we were very heavily dependent on customers walking through the door and not as dependent on like online sales or curbside pickup or anything like that. It was just customers coming in the door. That's what fed our business. So that was probably the biggest I guess shock was, all right, we gotta pick up another stream.
Right, absolutely. And whether we're talking about the initial shutdown that happened, which of course stopped people from walking in, to just the residual effects. And I think, a couple years later, and just seeing the number of, we were just talking before the broadcast about people not showing up at events and different networking things. Well, obviously the same sort of impact on our businesses. Travis, what would you say has been, one of the main impacts on your business?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I guess the biggest thing would have been, just like Chad said, it was a huge shift from people walking in the door to online ordering and delivery. For us, probably the biggest financial change was we have a pretty big catering business, and catering, because weddings weren't allowed to be held anymore, were cut. And we, from 2019 to 2020, we had like a 53% drop in catering. That included about $100,000 of deposits that we legally could have kept. The contract said we could have kept them, but we didn't think that that was appropriate to penalize brides because the government was shut down and the state was shut down because of a pandemic. So yeah, we had to refund about $100,000 in deposits, and that was very painful. But it was the right thing to do, and those were probably the two biggest changes in the last 2 years.
Yeah, Travis, I'm so glad you shared. Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people don't realize how that wedding industry was hit too. We have a client that's a wedding venue, and even once the doors of most businesses were reopened, theirs were not. Most people don't want a wedding with just 10 people, which was essentially what they were limited to. So that impact, and that was essentially all through 2020, huge impact, and obviously the impact on your business as well from that. And you mentioned something that we're going to dive into a little bit later about kind of doing what the contract says versus doing what, morally we feel is the right thing to do for customers and for clients. Like, what a big move for you to have such a financial hit in order to help others throughout the pandemic. I think that's something that your business has really shown in many ways throughout this whole ongoing situation we've been in. Jake, I want to turn to you. What has been, Foster Swift law firm, just kind of as a recap, very different, professional services firm, different from, kind of the walk-in traffic storefront or restaurant retail that we're talking about with Chad and Travis. What has been one of the biggest impacts that your firm has faced?
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, that was kind of the biggest shock to us. Everybody's dealt with this to one degree or another, but the biggest shock to us is how do we market our services without that face-to-face element? In years past, one of our primary means of reaching new clients and educating new clients was by attending and speaking on various topics at conferences such as the Michigan Township Association conference, which is a huge affair for our municipal law group. They have an annual lunch and learn that they do every year. And we would also hold lunch and learns at our offices just to update attendees on any changes in the law that they need to be aware of. And looking back on it now, I have no idea how we were able to get people to commit, 4 hours out of their day, out of their busy schedules to attend these lunch and learns. When the pandemic first hit us hard, our office had to work remotely. It was something that none of us had ever really done before. And we had to learn ways on the fly of how to reach out to an audience that can't be reached now. And another challenge that we've all kind of experienced over the last 2 years is how to be comfortable presenting over Zoom. While it is convenience, it presents its own challenges. Even after 2 years, we still have that one person who, while they're attending one meeting, they decide to take a conference call and not mute themselves. So that's been the main challenges, is just being comfortable with that, and then how do you overcome the inability to interact with somebody face to face?
Right. Yeah. And definitely teaching that mute function is still, that's a skill set, right? Like, let's all put it on our LinkedIn, like running Zoom calls, managing Zoom calls.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake, you brought up a really interesting point too, which is managing the internal as well as the external, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of coming back to this marketing and business development theme here that we have with Lansing Marketing Hackers. I'm sure with your marketing team, you were managing both your external marketing and changing that, like you said, like changing to webinars instead of in person. But then also having to communicate with each other working remotely now.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake, I want to keep it with you for a moment. What's one pivot that you made early in the pandemic that really helped set you up for continuing success?
Well, early on, we kind of realized we needed a central hub to house, articles, videos, and other resources, both internal resources that our firm put together, and then also external stuff, like stuff that the CDC is doing, is putting out there and stuff like that related to the pandemic for our visitors to visit on our website. So what we did early on, creating a coronavirus resource page that could house all that we could also update with new materials that became available, was kind of a no-brainer. Just having that one link that we could send out to clients and give them 24/7 access to these resources that we could send to them, whether their concerns were on workers' comp claims related to COVID, or what the current status of PPP loans were for our businesses. Like if we had any speaking engagements coming up, talking about that was kind of our saving grace, was that coronavirus webpage.
Yeah, Jake, I think my job as moderator sometimes is to, put the feather in your cap when needed. And one thing that Foster Swift did really well and continues to do really well, but all of the free resources that you provided, not just for your clients, but for the entire community. When we came up with this idea early on, like right before the shutdown started, actually in March of 2020, of doing the Facebook Live series to answer businesses' questions. I know we were in constant communication. We had one of your attorneys on at least once a week,
Mm-hmm.
answering questions, whether it was how to apply for PPP, what to do now, how to navigate contracts that weren't being fulfilled, some of the supply chain issues and the contract negotiation skill set that suddenly we all needed to have, all of those things, everything in between. And your team has continued to, we see the attorneys sometimes in these videos, and now on TV, but we see the attorneys, but there's the whole marketing team behind them really making sure that the resources are online. That's not an overnight task, right? To create that portal
Absolutely.
like you were talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Chad, what about for you? So you were talking about, even the foot traffic in and out of your business. So what's one pivot that you made early on in the pandemic that helped set you up for success?
basically probably the biggest pivot was the emphasis of the online store and getting information out to customers on, number one, that we have curbside pickup, and number two, all of our systems weren't integrated in the beginning. So our point of sale wasn't integrated with our website. So that was a big jump that had to happen very quickly. So, and then from a marketing point of view, it is basically just getting the word out about what services that we're providing now and how you can access those services and how you can get our product in your hands without, because if you remember at the time, there was such a big fear of, you know, we can't be face to face or we can't be within 6 feet of each other. Everybody wear a mask and all this kind of stuff. And so just getting that message out that, you know, you can place an order and we'll bring it out to your car. You don't have to come into the store and be in contact with anybody. And I would say that probably, you know, one of the biggest hurdles with that whole thing is that there was such a big, like, listen, everything was black and white. Either you're pro-mask or you're anti-mask. You're pro-corona or you're anti-corona. It's like this. I don't want to say Karens were invented during COVID, but I mean, in a sense, they were watered and allowed to grow. So you know, managing that part of the marketing, avoiding the Karen trap, was a big deal at the time. It was a very big deal. That and it was directly related to all of the things that we had to do in the background when it came to technology. All of them were together as one.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Chad. Did you find and maybe this, I wonder if this continues to be something you have to navigate with your marketing, whether it's in the marketing language or graphics or pictures you use. Is it, how difficult is it to kind of navigate like kind of the politics of COVID? I mean, there are certain regulations that as a business you have to follow. Certain things you must do, whether you believe in it or not, and for the safety of others or whatever the reason might be. Is that something that continues to be a challenge in marketing?
It's still a challenge, but I look at it this way. We have rules in our own house. I don't come into your house and wear shoes into your house if you want me to take my shoes off. All right, I don't smoke in your house if you don't want me to smoke in your house. Well, my business is my house, and I have rules inside of my house, and it doesn't really make a difference to me if you don't want to follow the rules. I'm not going to let you in my house, and I don't care if I lose you as a customer because this is my house, and it's just a disrespect for myself and my employees. Now, that being said, I'm not going out there looking for trouble either. So I'm not going to go out and pick a fight. I'm not going to go out and talk about, you know, all the different aspects of, you know, the virus and masking and all that kind of stuff. I think that early on in the beginning, I was really into the numbers and I was really into why it's important to wear a mask. But the fight wasn't worth it to me after a while. And the only thing that was important to me was being nice. If you want to be a jerk, I'm still going to be nice to you. If you're going to be nice, I'm going to be even nicer to you. I just don't want to get into any type of argument or fight over it. I want to kind of get those things shut down as quickly as possible. So all of my marketing really I tried to gravitate towards happiness and checking in on people and being concerned and being a good neighbor. And to me, that worked out really well because there's so much negativity that it was easy to stand up being nice. When, if you think about before the pandemic, being nice was the norm. So, you know, after the pandemic hits, being nice is not the norm. There's a lot of anxiety out there. So being nice and putting a smile on your face, even when you don't want to smile, having all the marketing towards happiness, I feel like it made us, really stand out from the crowd.
Chad, you're speaking my language, because on our Expert Connections TV show, which features Foster Swift, as well as Paul Schmidt's team and the Symposia team and Chad's team, a number of people involved in today's program, we just did a whole series on that started on Monday on kindness, and kindness as a business strategy, kindness as a marketing strategy, incorporating empathy, these things that, just like you said, it used to be a given that we had to be nice, and somehow we've lost perhaps a sense of that, and how to incorporate it in without it being political or without it being, something that's going to upset someone.
Right.
um,
The whole thing with being a positive member of the community has really nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with company values. And forget company values. It has everything to do with neighborhood values. Being nice to your neighbor, shoveling their sidewalk when it needs to be shoveled, or just little bids of kindness are more important than anything else. And as a matter of fact, I would say that I talked less about popcorn in my marketing than I ever have. And I talked more about happiness and all those other qualities and traits that were more important. And the business did not suffer at all by doing that.
You've got a couple of comments here. Lori says, I love this, Chad Jordan, taking the happiness approach in marketing. Stephanie also had commented, being a good neighbor. Yes. She loves the comparison you made as well about your business being like your house and following the rules that you set forth. Great example. Travis, I want to have you jump into this as well, because I know that kindness is kind of kindness, or whether it's the community focused approach, is really big in your marketing as well. So I'd love to have you weigh in on what Chad is saying, as well as talking about maybe a pivot that you made early on that has helped throughout the pandemic.
Oh yeah. So I think the biggest thing that happened, it really wasn't a marketing thing at all. We read an article, it was like March something, and an article came out when they were talking about Michigan schools were going to be closed. And one of the great reporters during that time pointed out a statistic in there. There was like 800,000 or so children in Michigan rely on the free and reduced lunch program at schools. And there was some talk about how are these kids going to get meals when their schools are closed? And that was a real concern. And we didn't even know that the number was that high. It's like 10 million population in Michigan. And we were shocked that it was almost 1 million kids that rely on this free and reduced lunch program. So we just started with a simple thing. We just said, hey, this was still at the time when you could do carry out. So it was this weird time where like you could come inside to get it, but you couldn't eat inside. All that weird stuff at the very beginning. So anytime somebody brought in a kid, we would serve them for free, up to 2 kids. And we posted that kind of snowballed. And a bunch of our amazing fans on Facebook said, hey, this is cool. How can we help? So then that led to this program where, okay, if somebody donates $5, we'll feed a kid and we'll match it. So if somebody donates $5, we'll put in $5 and we'll feed a kid. And that blew up. We ended up doing like 1,200 meals over that summer. We ended up partnering with Trinity Church to actually distribute the meals. And we worked with Lansing School District and a bunch of other school districts. It was amazing. And it really didn't start as a marketing thing. It literally came from suggestions from our fans based off of a reporter's writing on it. And then that just led to a whole bunch of community involvement that kind of snowballed after that. And it was amazing.
Well, and what's amazing is when, you talk about this and we can tell it's so genuine that you wanted to do something to help. And that in and of itself is the best marketing we could ever have, right? I think as business owners and as leaders, Jake, I think we can all agree that when we come into a situation and we genuinely want to make a difference, whether it's the attorneys helping out by providing information, whether it's providing lunches for students who need it, whether it's spreading kindness and making sure that we're being good neighbors. I mean, people respond to kindness in really amazing ways. And I don't mean to like just stay on that topic, but how great to then have, I'm sure, Travis, did you see what kinds of impacts did you see? So you didn't do it for the marketing, but the marketing must have then helped your business. What kinds of responses did you see from the community?
Now more than I can even imagine, I could have ever imagined. It doesn't happen to me so much. I'm kind of the behind the scenes guy at Saddleback, but my business partner, Matt Gillett, he's the one that is the food expert and is really the person that people recognize. When I'm out with Matt, it's very frequently that somebody will come up and grab his shoulder or say, "Hey, thank you for everything that you do for the community." That's amazing. I mean, that means so much more than thanks for the great pork sandwich or something. It's really amazing. I mean, it gives me, little goosebumps even talking about it, because it's so strange for us. I mean, we never had that kind of recognition before.
That's incredible. Well, we're not going to knock the sandwiches either, because that's pretty amazing as well. So, okay, so let's, I'd like to know too. Let's shift gears a little bit. We've had some conversations throughout the year about things like, all the typical marketing things like branding and having a good brand and having a good strategy. So I'm curious from each of you, and we'll start with Jake. I'm curious what you were doing before the pandemic that really has helped you as you've had to make adjustments and as you've had to kind of maneuver some of these changes. Jake, anything you were doing before the pandemic that really helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. Before the pandemic, one of our most cost-effective and fastest ways to get out information was sending out e-newsletters and e-blasts to clients via our email automation platform, Saturno. In addition to any printed newsletters that we would do, which we would hand out at conferences and stuff like that. But as far as e-blasts go, we would generally only do those once in a while when there was a major change in the law that couldn't be ignored. But when the pandemic hit, all of our communication turned digital overnight. And I was at a point where I was sending out multiple e-blasts, between all the practice groups every single day. Especially in the early months, we were getting new executive orders every day saying you can't do this, you can't do that. In the early months, changes were happening so fast. There was so much confusion by our clients. So our e-blast, became the best way to keep clients up to date on what was happening and what to anticipate. So having that system already in place really kind of kept it from spiraling out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine if you didn't have an email platform in place, that would have been a pretty difficult, shift to make. So absolutely. Travis, what about you? Anything you were doing before the pandemic that really helped you be able to adjust to COVID?
Yeah, so we go by a philosophy that Jeff Bezos said. I think it's Jeff Bezos. I don't know. These business books quote these things all the time, but he said something about like it's easier to plan for what your customers want in 10 years than it is to predict what they want in 1 year. So like if you look at Amazon, right, are people going to want faster shipping, more products, and lower prices? If they just always focus on that, then they're always going to be, going where the puck is going. So we've kind of tried to do that in our business. So we were very early on curbside pickup, which we call pork and go pickup. We were very early on the delivery apps, even though it's a very small amount of revenue, or it was a small amount of revenue before COVID. So we were spending a lot of this time doing technology and getting systems in place and integration with the point of sale and online ordering systems. We had all of that set up actually 2 years before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit and a lot of these local restaurants didn't even have online ordering, we really felt a lot of sympathy for them. And luckily we had that all set up. So we were able to really capitalize on that. So it went from before the pandemic, we would do about 10% of our orders were what we call digital orders. Either they come in via, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, or our online ordering platform. During the height of the pandemic, it got to 94% of our orders were coming through online. So that shift was incredibly fast, and companies that didn't have that really got hurt, and it sucked to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, what about you? Anything that you had done prior to the pandemic that, during the last 2 years, you were really glad that you had already done?
I've always been really heavy into social media. But strangely enough, I find myself doing significantly less social media as the pandemic has drawn on. I have Actually, I think that it's less effective than it used to be. I don't think that. Well, I have my own opinions about Facebook in particular and Instagram. Um, I don't want to get into that right here, but I think that before the pandemic, I was very into social media, and as the pandemic has drawn on, I'm less into it. And what I changed to was a focus on email marketing. That was what I transitioned into, and uh, we were doing email marketing before, but not like we are now. Highly segmented groups and looking at data more and more and more. We had the tools set up for data to get information, but we weren't using it up to its full capabilities. And by the way, I don't know if you can ever really use your data all the way up to its full capabilities, but just getting detailed and drilling down into numbers to truly understand who our customers are and what it is that they're buying and how frequently that they're buying really has helped us to have a better understanding of how to get the messages out, and so that we can, grow still. And I think that the big lesson of the pandemic is never stop learning. Like, never stop learning. Always be curious, and sometimes you just got to try, and sometimes it's going to fail. That's just the way it goes. But you got to keep trying stuff.
I like too that you mentioned, so you were really big into social before the pandemic, but now really focusing some of your marketing attention on email, because I think sometimes, whether it's as business owners or as marketers, we kind of get into this mode of what we're supposed to be using, the ways we're supposed to be reaching our clients or customers, when really it's figuring out what is the best way. Because right now on social media, there is a lot of noise. So if you have a captive social media audience, fantastic. If you're using, my team recently convinced me to start using Reels, which the verdict is still out on how much I enjoy doing that. It's very effective, I will say. When you have 3,000 views on your very first reel, you're like, okay, maybe you're onto something. But really finding what piece of technology is going to be most effective to helping you reach your goals. And like you said, using that data, being able to really drill down, whether it's into your funnels and figuring out what that automated journey then looks like, helping to understand our clients better and their purchasing habits, especially using newer technology. Travis mentioned, having had some of these systems in place a couple of years prior to the pandemic, but I'm sure, Travis, that I should ask, actually, I shouldn't assume, have you seen changes in how people are using some of the how you're able to reach them through your marketing throughout these last 2 years? Because I would imagine, for one, people are like email, for instance. People suddenly, when we were all shut down, in our homes, we were very attentive to email marketing because we were all in front of our computers. It was our only means to kind of connect with the outside world. But Travis, have you seen changes even in the last couple of years of how some of these systems you had in place are then being used to connect with your customers?
Yeah, I'd echo what Chad said. I mean, we have 32,000 plus followers on our Facebook page, and if we don't pay to promote a post, it'll be seen by 10,000 if we're really lucky, like if it has a really interesting message. And most of the times, if it's just like hey, we've got this special or this sale, it's going to be seen by like 1,000 people. And the platforms are now pay to play for sure. Like you've got to advertise in order to be seen by the audience, even though you've built that audience. I can kind of understand that from the platform's perspective, but I do think COVID has made it worse. As we as a society started to blame the platforms for what we were reading on the platforms, and tried to shift that responsibility to the platforms. I never really understood that. I believe that's kind of like blaming the telephone company for calling and getting sold something. It's not the telephone company's responsibility. It's a little bit different, obviously, but as that shift happened and we put that responsibility on Facebook and Twitter, that means that they had to be more critical about what they showed to their end users. So now, like, even when we would post things about like, you must wear a mask to come in the building, and we were trying to get that out to customers before they showed up, Facebook wouldn't show that to people because it was a COVID related message. And it had to be, cleared. So I think that's had, well, regardless of whether it was a good thing or bad thing, the result is that it's harder for businesses to reach the audience that wants to be seen, wants to be to hear from the business. And I think Chad's right. That shift to email marketing and platforms that you own the customer relationship and there's no gatekeepers in between. Although it still sucks that now Gmail puts all of our stuff in promotions and social mentions. So that kind of sucks about that. It's not even a pure, getting past the gatekeeper anymore. But in general, I think Chad's totally right. Yeah, shifting to those direct communications that you actually own is a much better way to do it rather than relying on these platforms that you're just going to have to continue to increase your budgets to be seen by the same people.
The interesting thing about that is that, the platforms in the beginning, they touted their service as a way to connect with the people in your community and the people that mattered the most to you. And as time has gone on, their algorithms have kind of flipped that. It's not actually the truth anymore, but there's still the belief that that's exactly what the Facebooks and Instagrams are. It's not really like that anymore. I think that the reliance on social media platforms for your marketing should be a very small piece of the pie when it comes to your marketing budget, in my opinion. Everything should be about customer relationships, just any way you can get them in your door, and then any way you can establish trust so that you can market to them on your own platforms, and then using automation to be able to continue the conversation and build trust. COVID has really, in my opinion, forever changed the landscape of social media.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because even as a marketing agency owner that does a lot of social media marketing, we always, emphasize with our clients, it starts with the relationship first. Social media is just one tool, one way that we have to kind of nurture that relationship. But I think we even saw, that infamous day when Facebook and Instagram went down, how many businesses that are only on social media, that rely on social, there were some that took a huge hit that day. So really big reminder about having a multi-channel approach at the very least, to be able to connect with your clients and customers. Jake, I'm curious. Next question here. What's one strategic marketing move that you've seen, whether it was something at Foster Swift or even another market or industry? What's something that you've seen this year that could be a game changer and really help someone in our audience?
As a professional full service firm, there's no mass marketing technique that we've really implemented as of late. For us, it's more about one size fits one approach, rather than a one size fits all, as everyone's legal needs are different. What works for one person may not work for the other. So we try to keep that mindset.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no cookie cutter approach, right? Being able to still, Chad and Travis have kind of mentioned the automation side of things, but also remembering that we still have to have some customization in there as well. And I want to make sure our audience members, please feel free to throw some questions in, comments. If you have questions for any of these gentlemen, happy to ask them for you. Chad, what about you? What's one marketing move you've seen, whether it was your own or something someone else has done, that would really be a good lesson for those that are watching?
I'm going to tell you, as much as I rail against social media, you're not on TikTok or starting to develop a TikTok marketing plan. That is the future of what social media will become, because TikTok is going to dominate social media in the future. It is powerful, and until they screw it up, it's time to get on the bandwagon and create a plan.
So are you producing TikTok videos? What's your TikTok plan?
I will be. As soon as the holidays are over, I will be. Yes, absolutely.
I love it. Can't wait. Okay,
Absolutely.
So we'll stay tuned.
Yeah.
And also important to point out that whether you're creating your own videos on TikTok, have an actual, business account, or just advertising on TikTok is also another way. You don't necessarily have to be, following the trends and posting your own, consistent videos, which is great if that's what you want to incorporate into your marketing plan. But even just the advertising capabilities and the tools for advertisers on TikTok that you can advertise your business, definitely important. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I feel like even though I say, hey, get on TikTok, it's gonna die one day too. And we're gonna be sitting here on the same panel in 3 years and say, man, TikTok is terrible. All these people are on TikTok. It's gonna happen. The using TikTok to get people into your funnel is the most important thing until the new TikTok comes along, in which you want to get people into your funnel. Like, everything is about getting people into your funnel. Doesn't matter what the tool is, get them into your funnel, and then treat them the way that they deserve to be treated. Build that trust so you can have the lifetime value of a customer over the course of many years of your business.
Travis, what's one strategic marketing move that you've either done or seen that you think would be a good lesson to teach others?
One of the things that struck me, I don't come from the restaurant background. I come from a tech background. That's what I did before this. And I guess one of the things that I saw during the pandemic that kind of shocked me was just simple business things, like having a rainy day fund where you're not running from a cash perspective so lean that you're not able to overcome a big challenge that pops up. So what we saw in March for many of the restaurants around town is they just kind of stopped marketing. A lot of them just closed their doors for a variety of reasons, and some of them are very justified for doing that. But we did the exact opposite. We quadrupled our marketing budget. We spent into the wind. So when we were worried that we weren't even going to be able to sell any food and that we might have to give away the stuff in our freezers, we started advertising more heavily and invested, even kind of doubled down on the market and tried to really take advantage of the fact that we were one of the few that were ready for online ordering and curbside pickup, and adjusting our meals to more COVID-friendly family meal sizes, and doing meals over Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, being open on the holidays, when we would never be open on the holidays before that. We really, really doubled down during the pandemic, and we ended up, I think, like sales between 2019 and 2020 are like almost exactly the same. And that was because we made really, really significant and scary investments into advertising, marketing, and systems and technology when we didn't know if the sales were going to be there, but we had to really take that leap of faith. That's one thing that kind of shocked me, was so many of these great businesses in town just kind of played defense during that time. And we were very proactive during that time. Even we started selling retail, literally barbecue grills. We were selling these $1,000 barbecue grills to people that we'd never sold before. Pellets. I mean, we were selling meat thermometers. We were doing anything we could to stay alive during that time. And because of that, the 12 people that we had to lay off in March, we hired back 2 weeks later, and everybody that wanted a job at Saddleback kept their job. And that was really important to us. It's a family of 40 people that provide for people. And we wanted to make sure that everybody could get through the pandemic as best as possible.
Gosh, you talk and I can tell just the focus on employees, and it's not just marketing, but really, like, as businesses, when we want to keep our businesses sustainable during a crisis like this, that focus on employees is so important. And it's interesting, Travis, because as you were talking, I was thinking of all of the businesses in the greater Lansing area that we saw just really come out and say, all right, we don't know what's happening, but we're just going to give it our all. We're all in to focus on the community. We're all in to help our clients or customers, whatever that looks like. I haven't seen any of those businesses like all of them have come out ahead. All of them have stayed in the game. And I think that that has been a big lesson in what it means to really rally together as a community, as a business community, but also as just humans helping other humans, and realizing that none of us have been through a health pandemic like this before. But if we're going to get through it, we're going to get through it together.
Yeah, and one thing, if I may expand upon that too, and I'm glad you pointed that out. One of the things that happened, like everybody in the community, or not everybody, but tons of people in the community wanted to help local restaurants and they wanted to help small businesses. But I don't know if you guys recall, but at that time, like you would just show up to a restaurant and not know if they were open or not. Some of these restaurants didn't have websites. Some of them didn't have online ordering. They didn't have their Google hours updated. So you'd be going to try to support these local restaurants and then they'd be closed. And understandably, understandable why they were closed. They might not have gotten a food delivery that day because that was happening too. Mm-hmm. Well, we took it upon ourselves to make a website on our own page that listed every single restaurant that was open for takeout and delivery during the pandemic. And people reached out to us like, why would you do that? You're advertising all your competitors. And to us, it was just obvious that the rising tide raises all boats. If all of these people want to support local restaurants, we need to give them the opportunity to do that by exposing them to all the different places that they can buy. It was really costly. Like we would pay an employee, you'd be surprised how long it would take to actually call every single restaurant in Lansing. It ends up taking about 2.5 hours just to figure out if they're open, what hours, and if they're open for takeout or delivery. So we'd pay for that every single week to update that website. It's shocking to me that people don't understand that about local business. Like if you just post about your neighbor business on your business page, that will do really well. And it's like people almost think that you're just exposing your competitors, but you're not. Like the rising tide raises all boats. Be generous with the mentions that you give and be generous with the promotion that you do of other local businesses. And it's only a net positive. And I'm really shocked that more businesses don't do that.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. When we focus on others, there's just something about it that that really actually I'll admit, so even for myself, this panel, I'm not on the panel, I'm the moderator, but I'll share that for me early on in the pandemic, it was like my own version of therapy to be able to help others. It's like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm just going to keep marketing people because that's what I know how to do. But really it comes back. I mean, that is something where, like you said, when you're helping others, it's helping them, it's helping you, it's helping the community at large. So absolutely, the more that people do that, the better they're going to be, even moving into the next year, because frankly, we just don't know where things are going to be with this next variant, and who knows what else could. I mean, I think one thing the pandemic has taught us is we just don't know. We never know what's around the corner. And so being able to adjust and be able to adapt is really important. I'm curious now, we've been sharing some of the great things we've seen. What about mistakes? What about things that we've seen others do, or things that we've done ourselves that maybe we wouldn't do again? Jake, let me jump over to you. Any advice on what not to do in 2022?
I think the biggest mistake is don't underestimate the power of doing video or doing podcasts to get your information out. Years ago, we only did articles and blog posts, that we would send out via e-blast or e-newsletter to reach clients. No one in 2022 should be doing strictly just written content. While having a written article or having just a written, social media post is nice, it's concrete. Having a video or even a brief podcast is perfect for the person that's on the go. We never go anywhere without our smartphones nowadays, and your business having like a YouTube channel or a podcast has a better chance of reaching clients' peripherals with a medium that they can listen to or watch on the go.
Yeah, I like that, Jake. Looking at some of these other platforms and other ways of reaching clients. Chad, any mistakes to avoid in 2022? What do you think people should not do?
From a marketing point of view?
Yes, we'll start with marketing.
Just making sure, because there's plenty of mistakes. You know what? Okay. I mean, what I was going to say, what I will say is, don't engage with the negatives, the Karens. Don't engage. Just don't. Like It's just not worth it. We took I think in the 13 years we've been in business, or 14 years we've been in business, we've taken on maybe 10 one-star reviews. And, we got a one-star review from a Karen this summer. And you know what? It just wasn't worth the fight. It's just a one-star review. It's not that big of a deal. As a matter of fact, the irony of it is that this person got kicked out of the store next to ours and gave us the one-star review. It's just not worth
I think that kind of defines Karen too at this point.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. It's just not worth the fight. Like there are battles that you have to choose your battles wisely, and just do not blow on fire. It's just going to make it bigger. Just there are people who are angry, and that's just what they are. Just move on. Just move on.
May I throw out a contrarian view?
Yes, Travis, please.
I think, Chad, I generally agree with you, and it's definitely better for your personal and mental health. Personal health, absolutely. But I will say there are certain things that we take a hard line on. So when people were, for instance, we were raising money for the Afghan refugees that are being relocated to the Lansing area, and people were attacking us for that. How dare we help people that are not citizens? These are terrorists that are coming over. Just really crazy things. Yeah. We could have ignored those, but I didn't want to. I took them head on, and I said, we don't agree with anything that you said. We believe that these people are valuable people and that this is what this country is built on. And I loved doing it. And I loved every second of it. We got the same thing when we were doing the kids' meals donations. People were saying, this is the responsibility of the parents. How dare you, you're not teaching somebody to fish, all that stuff. And we would just come back and say, the kids don't care. The kids need food. That's the only thing we care about. And if we can do something to help that, we're going to help that. So yeah, in general, Chad, I totally agree with you. But I will say that there are certain lines that if somebody says something that's just, I can't let it go. And I have to say that as a ruthless marketer, it usually is good marketing too, because it gives our fans permission to say what they wanted to say too. And let people know that we're not tolerating this stuff. We're not tolerating these. We gave a silly little $100 bonus to every one of our employees that got vaccinated. We didn't mandate it. We didn't take any position on vaccination. We said, if you get it, it helps us. It helps our community. We're going to give you money to take that time and do it. We got people that were pissed off and said that they'd boycott us for that. Well, I don't want you over ever again. And I'm going to tell you that. If you have a problem with us giving a bonus to employees to get vaccinated, never come into our store. So in general, I agree with you, Chad, but I just wanted to be a little contrarian because that's my nature.
Well, as Chad said earlier, my house, my rules. So your Facebook page, your rules. You know what? Maybe it's therapy to be able to fight back sometimes too.
It's all good though. I mean, I think that either way that you go, as long as what you are doing is, and I think what Travis is basically saying here is that the arguments or the fights that he is willing to engage in are those fights that are positive towards his company culture. And that I 100% agree on. But the Karen that said that, I don't care about those. But yes, you're 100% correct.
You too, Chad. You too.
I love it. Sharing the love. All right. We've got less than 10 minutes. So audience, if you have any questions, pop them in now and we'll get them answered. Guys, I'd like to ask, what is one thing that you're excited about in your marketing for the coming year? What is one thing you're working on that you're willing to share with us? Chad, let's start with you.
I mean, I've already hinted at it. I mean, I think TikTok is the future. Seriously, I think Paul Schmidt always says video is the future. Video is the future. I mean, video is now, it's yesterday, and it's tomorrow. But TikTok is now, and that is what I'm working on developing for 2022. I think it's that important, and I think it's probably going to go down as the most significant social media platform in the last 10 years. I think that even though Facebook has always been the giant, I I think TikTok is going to change the way that people think about Facebook. I think that it is the place that we need to be right now.
I look forward to seeing your videos, Chad. Travis, what's one thing that you're excited about in your marketing for next year?
We're going to be launching 3 new pizza places here in the next month or 2. We should have an announcement next week on that. And the thing that I'm kind of excited about long term is NFTs and these digital contracts and digital autonomous organizations. I'm really interested in crypto and in that space, and I think it can be really interesting for restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations to you, not only making it through the pandemic, all these things that you've talked about, but also now expanding.
Thank
Saw
you.
that announcement and the new logo the other day. So that is awesome. We're cheering you on for sure.
Thank you
Jake,
so
what
much.
about you? What's one thing that you are marketing effort wise that you're really excited about for next year?
Yeah, I think our the thing that we're most excited about is our continued involvement on your show on Expert Connections. What began as a Facebook Live series, during the early days of COVID, when our attorneys would come on and appear every week to help guide people through the confusion, about what can our business do, what we can't do. It's turned into this incredible media tool that you now have. I think you have a great platform that features professionals, not just from the legal industry, but from the business industry and the IT industry, all in one central place. And I can't wait to see what topics you have in 2022.
Thanks, Jake. I swear I didn't pay him to say that, but truly though, I mean, the show has been a really interesting way to look at even the multi-platform approach of having a show on TV, using YouTube, which we're now starting to incorporate. And actually YouTube is going to take more of a dominant, be more of the dominant platform in 2022 as we work on our strategy there. But really kind of like all of the things that each of you were talking about in helping the community, putting that community focus, and having a lot of fun in the process. That's one thing that we didn't talk about, but I think is very apparent as you guys were talking about some of these initiatives that you've really taken on in the last year or two, is just making sure that you're not dreading the marketing work that you're doing, in connection to the different things, related to your business, but that you're really like enjoying it and being involved, even if the enjoyment is coming out of fighting back with some trolls on Facebook. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today, your strategies. Is there any final thought before we go that you want to share with the community? One kind of maybe final question is, how can we support you and how can we support each other in the year ahead? What are your thoughts on that? Jake, I'll start with you.
I think how we can kind of help and support each other in 2022 is just having an openness, and a willingness to brainstorm and come up with creative solutions to challenges presented in the moment. 2020 was a curveball that, I that's not soon be forgotten. So marketing is one of the fastest industries in terms of implementing technology and adapting to it, and including others to provide feedback in the creative process is crucial. So just being open and willing to try, new and creative ways.
Thanks, Jake. Travis, what about you?
I guess the biggest thing is the rising tide raises all boats, and helping the community generally helps your business. And that racehorses have blinders on so that they don't look at the other horses and they just run their own race. Should think the same way about competition. It doesn't matter what your competitors are doing, just run your race and run it as fast as you can, and don't worry about what's going on with your competition.
I love that. Plenty of people who need to eat, plenty of work to go around. We don't all have to be in competition with one another. It's a great thought there. Chad, what about you?
I think that we need to have a focus on partnerships. I think that there are businesses that, everybody's got their own independent email list or customer list. And I think that, non-competing complementary businesses or even non-complementary businesses can do a lot to help each other's businesses grow by doing cross promotions or even cross marketing through email marketing.
That's a great idea. I love that. Any ways to collaborate, have partnerships, Great idea. Guys, thank you again so much for being on Lansing Marketing Hackers today. You have done a tremendous job in the last couple of years, and we appreciate you sharing kind of some of the ups and downs as you've navigated this, and we really look forward to seeing what's ahead in 2022. So thank you for being a part of this panel today. Thank you to all of you who've been watching. Make sure to connect with each of these guys on Facebook, on Instagram, on all the platforms. Follow Foster Swift and Saddleback Barbecue and Cravings Gourmet Popcorn. Give them some social media love, help lift them up. And then we will see you back in 2022. I don't even know how it's not 2020 anymore, but we have a whole lineup of programs coming in 2022. So stay tuned on Facebook for those events to be announced, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.